Driverly.com, unlimited drama series.
The text message arrived while I was elbow deep in a transmission rebuild, my hands black with grease and my mind focused on the delicate dance of gears and fluid. The phone buzzed against the metal workbench, and I almost ignored it. Almost. Honey, I'm pregnant. Thinking of putting my ex's name on the birth certificate. It just feels more meaningful. I stared at the screen for a solid 30 seconds, waiting for the punchline. When none came, I set down my wrench and read it again. Then a third time. My fiancée Samantha had just casually informed me that not only was she carrying another man's child, but she wanted to give that man the honor of fatherhood. 2 weeks before our wedding. What great news, I typed back, my sarcasm so thick it could choke a horse. My name is Jake Patterson, and I own Patterson's Auto Repair on the south side of Millbrook, a town where everybody knows everybody else's business. Or so I thought. Apparently, I'd been missing some crucial updates about my own life. I wiped my hands on a shop rag and walked to the small office in the back. The wedding invitations sat in a neat stack on my desk, addressed and ready to mail. The venue was booked. The tuxedo hung in my closet at home. The joint checking account we'd opened had been steadily draining for months, as Samantha planned what she called our dream day. Oh, now I understood why she'd been so insistent on handling all the wedding expenses herself. She'd been planning a celebration, all right, just not for us. I grabbed my jacket and keys. Time to pay a visit to the real father. Ethan Morrison lived in Hillcrest Estates, the kind of neighborhood where the mailboxes cost more than most people's cars. Real estate had been good to him, though I suspected his family money hadn't hurt either. His house was a sprawling colonial with perfectly manicured hedges and a circular driveway that screamed, "I have more money than taste." I parked my beat-up Ford pickup right behind his pristine BMW and walked up to the front door. The doorbell played a little classical tune that probably cost more than my monthly rent. The woman who answered wasn't Samantha. This had to be Marissa, Ethan's wife. She was elegant in that cold, untouchable way that money tends to cultivate. Her smile was polite but cautious. "Can I help you?" "I'm Jake Patterson," I said, extending a hand she didn't take. "I'm here to congratulate your husband on his upcoming fatherhood." Her expression shifted from polite confusion to something sharper. "Excuse me? Oh, you haven't heard? My fiancée is pregnant with Ethan's child. She's so excited, she wants to put his name on all the paperwork. I thought you should be among the first to know." The color drained from her face. Behind her, I could hear footsteps approaching. "Marissa, who's at the door?" Ethan's voice carried that casual confidence of a man who'd never faced real consequences for anything. He appeared in the doorway, and I watched his face go through a fascinating series of expressions as he recognized me. Confusion, then recognition, then something approaching panic. "Jake, what are you doing here?" "Just dropping by to discuss the baby," I said loudly enough for the neighbors to hear. "Samantha's so happy about the pregnancy. She can't wait to tell everyone who the real father is." Marissa turned to stare at her husband, and I could practically see the gears turning in her head. Ethan's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. "I think there's been some misunderstanding," he stammered. "No misunderstanding at all," I replied cheerfully. "She texted me today, very clear about wanting your name on the birth certificate. Said it felt more meaningful that way." I pulled out my phone and showed them the screenshot. Marissa's sharp intake of breath was audible from 3 feet away. "I'll let you two discuss this privately," I said, backing toward my truck. "Congratulations again, Ethan. Fatherhood's a big responsibility." As I drove away, I could see them in my rearview mirror, standing in their perfect doorway, having what looked like a very animated discussion. My phone buzzed with a text from Samantha. "Why are you at Ethan's house?" I typed back. "Just making sure the right man gets your Father's Day card." Back at the shop, I couldn't concentrate on the transmission. My mind kept circling back to that text message and the look on Marissa's face. How long had this been going on? How long had I been the fool in this equation? I locked up early and drove to the apartment Samantha and I shared. She wouldn't be home for hours. Her job at Morrison & Associates Public Relations kept her busy with evening events and client dinners. Or so she'd always told me. Our laptop sat on the kitchen counter, password protected but not from me. Samantha had never been particularly creative with security. Her password was still Samathan 2019, which should have been a red flag years ago, but I'd assumed it was just left over from when they dated in college. Now I knew better. The email history painted a picture I wished I could unsee. Months of messages between Samantha and Ethan, starting casual and growing increasingly intimate. Hotel reservations, spa appointments, weekend trips I'd thought were work conferences. The bank statements were worse. Our joint account showed charges at expensive restaurants, boutique hotels, and jewelry stores, all on dates when Samantha had claimed to be working late or visiting her sister. One email thread made my stomach turn. The wedding is in 3 weeks. Are you sure about this? Ethan, Jake's a good guy, but he's not you. He'll never be you. This baby changes everything. Samantha. What about Marissa? What about her? She doesn't have to know. Jake will raise the child, and we can be together whenever we want. I printed everything. Every email, every receipt, every incriminating text message thread I could find. The pile of papers grew thick enough to choke on. My phone rang. Ray Kowalski, my best friend and owner of Murphy's Tavern downtown. Jake, you need to get down here. Samantha's having dinner with the Morrison group, and she's telling everyone you've been acting strange lately. Paranoid and controlling, she says. Is that so? She's painting quite the picture, buddy. Thought you should know. I looked at the stack of evidence on my kitchen table. Ray, can you do me a favor? Set up a table for about 12 people tomorrow night. Tell everyone it's a celebration dinner. What are we celebrating? The truth. The next evening, I arrived at Murphy's Tavern with a manila folder thick enough to serve as a weapon. I'd invited everyone who mattered. Samantha's best friend Chloe, several mutual friends, Ethan and Marissa, and even Samantha's boss from the PR firm. Samantha looked surprised to see me, but she recovered quickly, flashing that practice smile she used for difficult clients. Jake, I didn't know you were coming tonight. Wouldn't miss it, I said, taking a seat at the head of the table. I have some exciting news to share with everyone. The conversation around the table died down. Ethan looked like he wanted to crawl under his chair. Marissa's expression was ice-cold fury, barely held in check. As you all know, Samantha and I are getting married in 2 weeks, I began, opening the folder. But what you might not know is that we're also expecting a baby. A few people offered congratulations. Chloe clapped her hands together in delight. The thing is, I continued, Samantha wants to make sure the right man gets credit for this blessing. I pulled out the first printout. So I thought I'd share some of the planning they've been doing together. I began reading aloud. Hotel reservations, romantic dinners, text messages that left no doubt about the nature of their relationship. With each revelation, the table grew quieter. Samantha's face went from confusion to horror to fury. Jake, stop this right now. Oh, I'm just getting started. I pulled out the bank statements. Did you know that our joint wedding fund has been paying for their romantic getaways? The Riverside Inn, the Grand Hotel, that little bed and breakfast in Vermont where they spent last weekend while I thought Samantha was at a work conference. Ethan finally found his voice. This is completely inappropriate. You're right, I agreed. It is inappropriate. Sleeping with another man's fiancée while she's planning their wedding? Definitely inappropriate. Marissa stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. We're leaving. Actually, I said, I think everyone should hear this last part. I held up a printed email. This is from 3 days ago. Samantha writes, Jake will never suspect anything. He's too trusting, too simple. He'll raise the baby and never know the difference. The silence that followed was deafening. Chloe stared at Samantha with a mixture of shock and disgust. Samantha's boss looked like he'd swallowed something unpleasant. Simple, I repeated, savoring the word. That's what you think of me, Samantha. Too simple to notice my fiancé was having an affair? Too trusting to check our bank statements? Samantha tried to speak, but I wasn't finished. Here's what's going to happen. The wedding is off. I'm keeping the ring. It was my grandmother's anyway. The apartment lease is in my name, so you'll need to find somewhere else to live. And Ethan. I turned to face him. Congratulations on your new responsibilities. Child support starts in about 7 months. I stood up, leaving the folder of evidence on the table. Enjoy your dinner, everyone. It's on me. Well, technically it's on the joint account, but I think we can call it even. As I walked toward the exit, I could hear the explosion of voices behind me. Accusations, denials, the scrape of chairs as people stood up. But I didn't look back. My phone was buzzing with notifications before I even reached my truck. Apparently, someone at the table had been live streaming the whole thing on social media. By morning, half the town would know the truth about Samantha and Ethan's affair. But I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. The video went viral within our social circle overnight. By the time I opened the shop the next morning, I had 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Most were from friends offering support or asking for details. A few were from Samantha's family, confused and hurt. But the one that caught my attention was from Chloe, Samantha's supposed best friend. "We need to talk. Meet me at the coffee shop on Main Street at noon." Chloe Martinez had been part of Samantha's inner circle since college. She was smart, attractive in an understated way, and had always been friendly to me without being overly warm. I'd assumed she was just being polite for Samantha's sake. I found her at a corner table, nursing a latte and looking like she hadn't slept much. "That was quite a performance last night," she said as I sat down. "Just sharing some family news." She smiled, and there was something different about it, less guarded than usual. "Samantha called me at 2 in the morning, crying and ranting about how you'd ruined her life." "Her life? That's rich." "She's been posting on social media all morning, painting herself as the victim of an abusive, controlling relationship. Says you've been monitoring her every move, going through her private communications." I sipped my coffee and considered this. "And what do you think?" "I think she's getting exactly what she deserves." Chloe's voice carried a sharp edge I'd never heard before. "Do you want to know how long I've been waiting for someone to expose her for what she really is?" This was interesting. "How long?" "Years. She's been manipulating people, using them, throwing them away when they're no longer useful. She did it to me. She did it to half our friend group, and she was doing it to you." "Why didn't you ever say anything?" Chloe laughed, but there was no humor in it. Who would believe me? Saint Samantha, with her perfect job and her perfect wedding plans? She's very good at managing her image. I studied her face. There was something else here, something deeper than simple friendship loyalty. "What aren't you telling me, Chloe?" She was quiet for a long moment, stirring her latte with unnecessary focus. "She cost me my last relationship, told my girlfriend that I was cheating, showed her fake evidence, convinced her I couldn't be trusted. All because she was jealous that I was happy." The pieces started falling into place. "You want revenge. I want justice, and I think you do too." Over the next hour, Chloe laid out everything she knew about Samantha's manipulations, the lies she'd told to break up other couples, the way she'd sabotaged a coworker's promotion by spreading rumors about her competence, the fake charity event she'd organized to impress her boss, pocketing half the donations. "She keeps records of everything," Chloe said. "Photos, emails, recordings. She calls it her insurance policy in case she ever needs leverage over people." "Where does she keep all this?" "There's a safe deposit box at First National. The key is in her jewelry box, hidden in a false bottom." I stared at her. "How do you know all this?" "Because I helped her set it up 2 years ago, before I realized what kind of person she really was." That evening, while Samantha was at another emergency meeting with her crisis management team, I let myself into our apartment one last time. The jewelry box sat on her dresser, innocent looking and familiar. I'd seen her open it hundreds of times, never thinking to look closer. The false bottom came away easily, revealing a small silver key and a folded piece of paper with account numbers. The safe deposit box was a treasure trove of ammunition. Photos of married coworkers in compromising positions, recorded conversations where people shared confidential information, financial documents that painted several mutual friends in unflattering lights. But the real goldmine was the folder labeled Ethan. Photos dating back months, showing them together at restaurants, hotels, even at his office after hours. Bank statements showing cash withdrawals that matched exactly with deposits into Samantha's personal account. And a handwritten note in Ethan's distinctive scrawl, "For the baby's future, our secret." I photographed everything and returned the originals to the box. Let Samantha think her insurance policy was still safe. The next morning, I started making calls. Samantha's mother was first. "Mrs. Chen, this is Jake. I think there are some things about your daughter you should know." Her boss was next. "Mr. Williams, I have some information about Samantha's professional conduct that might interest you." Then Ethan's business partners, his country club buddies, his wife's book club friends. Each conversation was brief, factual, and devastating. By noon, I'd shared Samantha's insurance policy with everyone she'd ever tried to manipulate or control. The photos, the recordings, the evidence of her schemes, all of it spread through our social network like wildfire. My phone rang. It was Ray. "Jake, you need to get down here. Ethan just walked into my bar looking like he wants to start a fight." On my way. I found Ethan at the far end of Murphy's bar, 3 drinks in, and radiating the kind of anger that comes from watching your carefully constructed life collapse in real time. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his usually perfect hair disheveled. "There he is," he slurred as I approached. "The man who ruined everything." "I didn't ruin anything, Ethan. I just stopped pretending not to notice." He stood up, swaying slightly. "You had no right to drag my
187 messages to your gym partner? She's just a friend. Don't send photos like.
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
wife into this. Marissa didn't deserve to be humiliated like that. You're right, she didn't deserve to be married to a cheating liar, either. The bar had gone quiet. Ray was watching from behind the counter, ready to intervene if things got physical. "You think you're so smart," Ethan continued. "So righteous, but you're just a small-town mechanic who got lucky. Samantha was always too good for you. If she was so perfect, why did she need to lie and steal to afford your little romance?" That hit home. Ethan's face flushed red. "She loves me. She always has. You were just convenient." "Convenient?" I laughed. "Is that what you call paying for your dates with my money?" Ethan took a swing at me then, but 3 drinks and a lifetime of privilege had not prepared him for a bar fight. I caught his wrist easily and twisted, sending him stumbling backward into his bar stool. "Sit down, Ethan, before you embarrass yourself more than you already have." Instead, he lunged forward again. This time I stepped aside and let momentum carry him face first into the bar. When he straightened up, his nose was streaming and his shirt was torn. "Had enough?" I asked. He glared at me with pure hatred. "This isn't over." "Yeah, it is." I pulled out my phone and showed him the screen. "Because in about 5 minutes, everyone in this town is going to know that you've been embezzling money from your wife's trust fund to pay for your affair. Amazing what people keep in their safe deposit boxes." The fight went out of him like air from a punctured tire. He slumped against the bar, suddenly looking much older than his 38 years. "How did you?" Same way I found out about everything else, by actually paying attention. I left him there, bleeding and broken, while Ray called him a cab. Outside in the parking lot, I found Marissa Morrison waiting by my truck. "We need to talk," she said. Marissa Morrison was not what I'd expected. Up close, away from the perfect facade of her home and marriage, she looked tired but determined. Her expensive clothes couldn't hide the tension in her shoulders or the steel in her eyes. "I want to help you destroy them both," she said without preamble. We sat in my truck in the parking lot of Murphy's Tavern while she told me her story. She'd suspected Ethan's affair for months, but hadn't been able to prove it. The financial irregularities I'd uncovered were just the tip of the iceberg. "He's been siphoning money from my trust fund for over a year," she said. "Small amounts at first, then larger ones. I thought it was for business investments." "How much are we talking about?" "Nearly $200,000. I whistled low. "That's a lot of romantic dinners." "He bought her a car, a condo downtown, jewelry, all with my family's money." Her voice was calm, but her hands were clenched into fists. "I want them to pay for what they've done." "What did you have in mind?" She smiled, and it was the coldest expression I'd ever seen on a human face. "The Millbrook Autumn Festival is this weekend. Ethan's company is the main sponsor. He's supposed to give a speech about community values and family commitment. Sounds like the perfect venue for some truth-telling." "My thoughts exactly. But I think we can do better than just embarrassing them in front of the town. I think we can ruin them completely." Over the next 2 hours, Marissa laid out a plan that was both brilliant and ruthless. She had access to Ethan's business accounts, his calendar, his professional contacts. She knew exactly when and where to strike for maximum damage. "The festival speech is at 2 o'clock on Saturday," she said. "But the real show will be at the community center afterward. The Chamber of Commerce is hosting a reception for all the sponsors and their families. Samantha will be there. Oh yes, she's been planning to attend as Ethan's business associate while I'm supposedly out of town visiting my sister. She has no idea I know about their little arrangement. What do you need from me? Just be there with your evidence, and maybe bring some friends who know how to work a camera." That night, I called Chloe and Ray to fill them in on the plan. Both were eager to help, though for different reasons. Ray was motivated by loyalty and a sense of justice. Chloe's motivations were more complex, but her hatred for Samantha was genuine enough. "I've been waiting years for this," she said. "Samantha destroyed my relationship, sabotaged my career, turned half our friends against me. She deserves everything that's coming to her." "This is going to get messy," I warned. "Are you sure you want to be involved?" "Jake, I've been involved since the day she decided to make my life miserable. This is just the first time I get to fight back." Friday night, Samantha showed up at the apartment to collect more of her belongings. She'd been staying with a friend since our public confrontation at Murphy's, but she still had a key and apparently felt entitled to come and go as she pleased. I was waiting for her in the living room when she walked in. "Jake, you scared me. I didn't think you'd be here." "It's my apartment, Samantha. Where else would I be?" She looked different. The confident, polished woman I'd fallen in love with had been replaced by someone harder, more desperate. Her designer clothes couldn't hide the stress lines around her eyes or the way her hands shook when she thought I wasn't looking. "We need to talk," she said, sitting down across from me. "I think we've said everything we need to say." "No, we haven't. This whole thing has gotten out of hand. People are saying terrible things about me, making up stories." "Making up stories? Samantha, I have emails, bank records, photos. What exactly do you think people are making up?" "Making up stories, making up benign day." She tried a different approach. "Okay, yes, I made mistakes, but we can work through this. We love each other. We're good together. We were good together, right up until you decided to have an affair and steal my money to pay for it. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Ethan and I, we have history. When he came back to town, all those old feelings just resurfaced. So you decided to marry me while sleeping with him. I thought I could get over him. I thought what we had was enough." She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "Jake, please, we can start over. Move away from here. Forget all this drama. What about the baby?" Her face went pale. "What about it? Is it mine or his?" The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Finally, she whispered, "I don't know, but you were planning to put his name on the birth certificate anyway." I was confused, emotional. I wasn't thinking clearly. I stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the street was quiet. Normal people living their normal lives, without the weight of betrayal and lies crushing down on them. "Samantha, do you know what the worst part of all this is?" "What?" "It's not the affair. It's not even the money. It's that you thought I was too stupid to figure it out. You actually believed you could keep lying to me indefinitely, and I'd never catch on. That's not true. Jake will never suspect anything. He's too trusting, too simple." I turned to face her. "Ring any bells?" She closed her eyes. "You weren't supposed to see that. I wasn't supposed to see a lot of things, but I did, and now everyone else has seen them too." "What do you mean?" I smiled. "You'll find out tomorrow at the festival. Don't miss Ethan's speech. I hear it's going to be very enlightening." The fear in her eyes was almost enough to make me feel sorry for her. Almost. "Jake, what are you planning?" "Just a little community education. After all, the people of Millbrook deserve to know what kind of values their community leaders really represent." She left without another word, but not before I saw her hands shaking as she gathered her things. Tomorrow was going to be a very long day for Samantha Chen and Ethan Morrison, and I was going to enjoy every minute of it. The Millbrook Autumn Festival was in full swing by the time I arrived Saturday afternoon. The town square was packed with families, enjoying the crisp October weather. Local vendors hawking everything from apple cider to handmade crafts, and a general atmosphere of small-town celebration that would have been heartwarming under different circumstances. I found Ray and Chloe near the main stage, where Ethan was scheduled to speak in 20 minutes. Ray had brought his camera equipment. He'd been documenting local events for years, while Chloe had stationed herself with a clear view of both the stage and the VIP seating area, where Samantha was sitting. "She looks nervous," Chloe observed, nodding toward Samantha. She was right. Samantha kept checking her phone, glancing around the crowd, fidgeting with her purse. She'd dressed carefully for the occasion, professional but approachable, the perfect image of a successful young woman supporting local business. If you didn't know better, you might think she belonged there. "Where's Marissa?" I asked. "Already inside the community center, setting up for the reception," Ray replied. "She's got everything ready." Ethan took the stage right on schedule, looking every inch the successful businessman in his tailored suit and confident smile. He'd covered the damage from our bar encounter with makeup, but I could still see the faint bruising around his nose if I knew where to look. "Ladies and gentlemen, Thank you for coming out today to celebrate our wonderful community, he began, his voice carrying clearly through the sound system. Morrison Real Estate is proud to support the Autumn Festival and all the values that make Millbrook such a special place to live and work. The crowd applauded politely. I noticed several people in the audience filming with their phones, which was exactly what I'd been hoping for. Family, commitment, honesty, integrity. These are the foundations that build strong communities, Ethan continued. As business leaders, we have a responsibility to model these values in everything we do. I almost laughed out loud. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. That's why I'm especially proud to announce that Morrison Real Estate will be expanding our commitment to family services, helping more young couples find their dream homes and build their futures together. He gestured toward the VIP section where Samantha was sitting. She smiled and waved, playing her part perfectly. Speaking of building futures, I said loudly enough for the nearby crowd to hear, I think everyone should know exactly what kind of future you've been building, Ethan. Heads turned in my direction. Ethan's smile faltered as he spotted me in the crowd. I'm sorry, is there a question from the audience? He asked, trying to maintain control of the situation. More of a comment, really. I started walking toward the stage. See, I think the people of Millbrook deserve to know what their community leaders do when they think no one is watching. Security started moving in my direction, but Ray and Chloe were already in motion, cameras rolling, creating a buffer around me. Jake Patterson, everyone, I announced to the crowd. Local business owner, tax-paying citizen, and until recently, the fiancé of the woman sitting in your VIP section. Samantha had gone white as a sheet. She was looking around frantically, probably trying to figure out how to escape without making a scene. You see, Ethan here has been giving my fiancé some very personal business advice, the kind that requires hotel rooms and joint bank accounts and secret weekend trips. The crowd was murmuring now, phones coming out, people pressing closer to hear better. Jake, that's enough, Ethan said into the microphone, but his voice had lost its confident tone. Oh, I'm just getting started. Tell them about the baby, Ethan. Tell them about the $200,000 you stole from your wife to fund your affair. Tell them about the fake charity you and Samantha organized to launder money through her PR firm. That last part wasn't entirely true, but I'd found enough evidence in Samantha's safe deposit box to make it plausible. The effect was immediate and devastating. Security, Ethan called, but the crowd was getting restless, demanding answers, shouting questions. Where's your wife, Ethan? Someone called out. Yeah, why isn't Marissa here? Another voice added. She's at the community center, I announced, setting up a very special presentation for the sponsor reception. I think you'll all find it very educational. The crowd started moving toward the community center like a wave. Ethan abandoned the stage, pushing through people to reach Samantha, but she was already running in the opposite direction. I followed the crowd to the community center, where Marissa had indeed prepared a presentation. The main hall was set up with tables and a projection screen that was currently displaying a slideshow of photos, Ethan and Samantha at various restaurants, hotels, and intimate locations around town. Welcome, everyone, Marissa said calmly as the crowd poured in. I thought you might be interested in seeing how your festival sponsors spend their time and money. The photos kept cycling. Bank statements showing the transfers from Marissa's trust fund, copies of hotel receipts and restaurant bills, text messages between Ethan and Samantha discussing their plans and laughing about how easy it was to fool their respective partners. Ethan burst through the crowd, his face red with fury and embarrassment. Marissa, stop this right now. Stop what, darling? I'm just sharing some family photos with our friends and neighbors. Samantha appeared behind him, tears streaming down her face. Please, this is private. You're ruining people's lives. I'm ruining lives? Marissa's composure cracked slightly. You stole my husband and my money, and you're worried about ruining lives? The crowd was eating it up. Phones were everywhere, recording every moment of the confrontation. This would be all over social media within hours. The baby isn't even his! Samantha screamed suddenly. I don't know whose it is. The room went silent. Even Ethan stared at her in shock. What did you say? He asked quietly. I said the baby might not be yours. I was with both of you around the same time. I don't know for certain who the father is. Ethan's face went through several expressions before settling on disgust. You lied to me about everything. I lied to everyone. Samantha was sobbing now, mascara streaming down her cheeks. I just wanted to be happy. I wanted to have choices. I wanted to matter to someone. You mattered to me, I said quietly, right up until you decided I didn't matter to you. She turned to look at me, and for a moment I saw the woman I'd fallen in love with 3 years ago. Vulnerable, uncertain, human. Jake, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for all of this. I know you are, Samantha. You're sorry you got caught. The crowd was starting to disperse, the show apparently over. Ethan had disappeared, probably to start damage control on his business and marriage. Marissa was calmly packing up her presentation materials. Samantha stood alone in the middle of the room, surrounded by the wreckage of her carefully constructed life. What happens now? She asked. Now you figure out how to live with the consequences of your choices, I replied. Just like the rest of us. I walked away without looking back. Outside, the festival was winding down. Families packing up their picnic blankets and heading home to their normal, uncomplicated lives. Ray and Chloe were waiting by my truck. Well, Ray said, that was something. Think it's over? Chloe asked. I looked back at the community center, where Samantha was finally emerging, alone and defeated. Yeah, I said, it's over. And for the first time in weeks, I actually believed it. Lupshigen died we sinned. Thunder died ud is moon. Tonder toot of tweeden die.